Donald Trump just got some terrible news, and he is not taking it well. Because when Donald Trump was elected president again, the first convicted felon ever elected president, he thought it meant the end of his legal troubles, that he could skate accountability for the millionth time in his life and avoid getting what he deserved, some prison time. But it doesn't look like that's going to be the case, that everything is fine for Donald, because a ruling from Judge Merchan has Trump not only afraid again, but losing it in a meltdown on Truth Social that we are going to get into. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really means the world to me. Now, before we get into this meltdown from Donald Trump on Truth Social, just a posting spree of the crazy nonsense that we expect from Donald when he's losing it, I want to hear a little bit more about this ruling from Jen Psaki and Congressman Eric Swalwell.
So earlier this evening, not that long ago, we had some breaking news out of New York, where a judge has now rejected Donald Trump's motion to vacate his criminal conviction on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records to cover up an alleged affair. Now, Trump's legal team had argued that his guilty verdict should be tossed out in light of the Supreme Court's ruling on immunity, claiming that testimony from former White House employees should not have been entered into evidence. But Judge Juan Merchan, who oversees the case, disagreed, saying in part, the people's use of these acts as evidence of the decidedly personal acts of falsifying business records poses no danger of intrusion on the authority and function of the executive branch. And I've been wanting to talk to people about what this all means, and I have the perfect people joining me now, Democratic Congressman and former prosecutor Eric Swalwell and former spokesperson at the Department of Justice Anthony Coley. So, Congressman, I read this as the justice system at the state level working, and this basically meaning that Trump's not exactly off the hook. But how did you read it? How should people digest what the ruling tonight means?
Well, not everyone is going to roll over for him, as we are seeing right now. As you know, the billionaire class is certainly doing that, trying to curry favor with the new president. And Americans are asking, okay, but like, what do I get out of that? And what they're seeing with this ruling is that what you get out of it is Donald Trump is still going to be treated the way anyone else would be treated. I also have my own civil case with January 6 police officers against Donald Trump for what he did on January 6th, and we're actually moving down the track. We won at the district court level on immunity. We won unanimously at the Court of Appeals. He appealed it to the Supreme Court and then withdrew that. So we're in depositions right now. And so we may be one of the only trees standing in the forest, but we're still seeking accountability. And I think it's important for people to know that that's still happening. It's
so interesting that that's such a good example. I'm so glad you shared that. Anthony, you're like the Forrest Gump of communicators in government. But, you know, one of your past jobs was to help explain legal issues to the public. Right. So what should people understand who are not lawyers or not former prosecutors about this ruling?
Well, the congressman said it right. Not everyone will roll over, but the ones who will, they matter. And now those are conservatives on the U.S. Supreme Court. And I have every expectation that eventually this case will make its way to the Supreme Court, and the conservatives there are going to overrule it. And I say that because the Supreme Court is fundamentally broken, Jen. I think of the fact that there are people there who don't belong right now. Neil Gorsuch. There are at least 2 justices we know that are considering cases where they should be recused. And collectively, the conservatives are ignoring decades and decades of precedent, like turning over things like Roe v. Wade, to enact a policy agenda. And the emphasis is on policy, because if you rewind the tape, if you go back to the 1980s, the conservative Republican Attorney General Edwin Meese put together a blueprint about how conservatives could use the courts to enact a policy agenda. And so now that we have conservatives on the U.S. Supreme Court in the majority, we have conservatives controlling both houses of Congress and a nominal conservative in the White House, they are not going to let Donald Trump be the only president to suffer the indignity of having a criminal conviction.
So since you're an actual former prosecutor, do you think this goes to the Supreme Court? And let me ask you a second part of this question. There are a bunch of other cases that everybody's kind of assumed will never see the light of day again, right? The Georgia case, obviously Jack Smith made his announcement. Does the ruling today change any of that or change your perception of that?
Well, I agree with Anthony. I mean, he's going to take it up to the Supreme Court. He is hell-bent on this idea that he's king. But to most Americans, the people that I grew up with, they don't want to get involved in this red team, blue team, as Anthony said, conservative court or a liberal court, they just want to know, did you run for president for the right reasons?
Right.
Did you run to help me and the cost of what, I'm paying at the grocery store? Right. Or is this just about making all of your criminal cases go away and putting your rich friends in positions of power? And if this is where he's going to put his focus, I think he's going to find he's going to lose the American people pretty quickly.
So clearly not a lot for Donald Trump to be excited about there, at least in the short term. Of course, we saw the other panelists talking about the way in which he believes that the Supreme Court, as they always do, will probably side with Donald Trump being a dictator, being a king, having no accountability, because he never does. But in the meantime, Donald Trump is being held accountable, and he's not happy about it. Just look at what he had to say on Truth Social. In a two-part manic episode, Trump posted breaking. In a completely illegal, psychotic order, the deeply conflicted, corrupt, biased, and incompetent acting justice Juan Merchan has completely disrespected the United States Supreme Court and its historic decision on immunity. But even without immunity, the illegitimate case is nothing but a rigged hoax. Merchan, who is a radical partisan, wrote an opinion that is knowingly unlawful, goes against our Constitution, and if allowed to stand, would be the end of the presidency as we know it. Merchan has so little respect for the Constitution that he is keeping in place an illegal gag order on me, your president and president-elect, just so I cannot expose his and his family's disqualifying and illegal conflicts. I am the only political opponent in American history not allowed to defend myself. A despicable First Amendment violation. Merchan took the Manhattan DA's witch hunt that, according to all legal scholars, is a non-existent case, barred by the statute of limitations, and should never have been brought, and though his fraud and misconduct gave it a semblance of life. While deranged Jack Smith was sent packing to The Hague after losing all of his politically manufactured cases against me, Merchan, who is far worse and even more corrupt than Smith in his fight for my hopeless political opponents, just cannot let go of this charade. Is it because of his conflicts and relations that he keeps breaking the law? This has to stop. It is time to end the lawfare once and for all so we can come together as a nation and make America great again. So it seems like Donald Trump actively wants to violate his gag order for some reason. Really just, again, another meltdown. We expect this, but it shows that he is upset that he is being held accountable, even if it is in the short term. And this brings up an important point that we need to continue to make. Judge Juan Merchan simply doing his job, following the law, and Donald Trump is probably going to go after him for that, because that's all he cares about in his presidency. It's not lowering costs, it's attacking the media, it's attacking Democrats, and it's attacking the people who held him accountable. I think if there is a list, and of course we've talked about this, of people that President Biden is considering preemptively pardoning to spare them from Donald Trump's wrath, I think Judge Juan Merchan should absolutely be on that list. Because unlike so many in the corporate media or business leaders or even judges, elected officials who are bending the knee to Donald Trump, Judge Juan Merchan is not stepping down. He's not bending the knee, unlike many others, like I said. And what really comes to mind is ABC News, who I think Jim Acosta did a great job calling out in this clip right here.
ABC News will pay millions of dollars to settle a defamation suit with Donald Trump. It all stems from George Stephanopoulos using the word rape instead of sexual abuse in an interview with about E. Jean Carroll's lawsuit against Trump, in which that was discussed. Under the terms of the settlement, the network will issue a public apology, pay $1 million for Trump's attorney's fees, and pony up $15 million for a, quote, presidential foundation and museum. CNN's Brian Stelter joins me now. Brian, this is pretty unusual and disturbing. What do you make of all this and this ugly legal fight that is trying to be avoided by ABC and Disney?
Right. Trump has a long history of filing lawsuits, including against news outlets. Most of the time, those cases get thrown out. Judges see right through those frivolous cases and throw them out. Trump right now has litigation pending against CBS, for example, over a 60 Minutes interview of Kamala Harris. So these cases oftentimes do not work out for Trump. But this ABC case is a major victory. I talked to renowned First Amendment lawyer Floyd Abrams last night. He said, look, there's no way to say other than this is a big win for Trump. It's going to embolden him to file more of these suits. But as Abrams said, he called it disturbing that this could turn $15 million could be paid around the use of the word rape versus sexual abuse in that interview on ABC's This Week. Look, Stephanopoulos has been a Trump target for a long time. He was very aggressive in this interview that aired in March. So Trump decided to file a suit about a week later, and a judge did not throw it out. A judge let it go forward through the discovery process. So it's possible that ABC decided to settle this, Jim, because there might have been embarrassing emails or text messages on ABC's servers that were going to become public. Everybody remembers that's what happened to Fox News when Dominion sued Fox. So this might have been a case where ABC is avoiding public embarrassment by paying $15 million. But look, there's a lot of people that say that payment is embarrassing as well. So this is not the end of the story.
Well, and there are a lot of different ways to talk about this, Brian. I mean, Donald Trump has said a lot of things about people, places, you name it, that have been false and so on. And it just strikes me as a bit rich that, he's going to be the recipient, or his presidential foundation is going to be a recipient of this kind of large settlement.
There really truly was no reason for ABC to settle that suit in the nature that they did. It's just the bending of the knee that the corporate media and the billionaire class is doing to Donald Trump. Trump said something at a press conference yesterday when he said, in my first term, everyone was against me. Now everyone wants to be my friend. And it was disturbing to me because he is so right. And it's what's scarier to me about the Trump presidency this go around than last is that there are so many willing to just be bought in. I don't know if it's out of fear or they've come to like Donald Trump somehow because our brains have been so broken over the last 8, 9, 10 years now. But that's the state of things. And so we have to work even harder, those resisting the Trump presidency, because we don't have a lot of the same support that we used to. And that is scary, but we are in this fight every single day together. And if you want to support what we're doing on this channel, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.